Anime makes characters that look like girls, dress like girls, act like girls, and sound like girls, but then they go, surprise, here's a pound of raw beef, you're gay now. Hi, I'm SUSU, but you can call me Doofenshmirtz the way I'm loving these traps. Luckily, I never gave the family computer a virus looking up whatever the rich people who could afford a hentai key subscription chose to share with us paupers. That's right, hentai key. Founded in 2001. I've been looking at hentai longer than some of you have even been alive. Gooners, you are in the presence of your predecessor, an OG fapper. Bask in my glory. My canon event began in my motherland of Puerto Rico, home to such legends as Daddy Yankee, Bad Bunny, and my childhood idol, La Chupacabra. My uncle was an otaku with wall-to-wall racks of anime VHS tapes that he would let me watch. So, the one I picked on that fateful day was Tenchi Universe Episode 20, No Need for Swimsuits. The scene where Nagi reveals her swimsuit rewired my brain. It wasn't just the amount of skin, but the zooms and the reaction of the audience. It was a huge deal for me because up until then, I'd honestly never seen these levels of nudity in American comics or cartoons. Anime quickly became not just a source of creativity for me, but also an outlet to safely explore the spectrum of human desire without getting predated upon online, like I saw happening to several of my friends on Gaia Online. Ah, wow. Gaia Online, we're getting into some real weeb nostalgia. And speaking of which, who remembers the paperback single issue mini Pokemon comics of Dengeki Pikachu, or the Electric Tale of Pikachu as it was called in English? They were tiny pamphlet-like things that you could only get with the Pokemon VHS tapes. Yeah, the ones people are selling on eBay for $1,000 American, which is crazy considering how heavily censored they were for Western audiences. The way the women were drawn, it activated my neurons. Another canon event happened in 2005 when Naruto came out, and I sustained major psychic damage from the character Haku. This was my first encounter with the trap archetype in anime, and it was life-changing. Unlike American cartoons, anime explored gender in a way that was progressive, well, for the time. In hindsight, traps were the perfect cover. When normies would point out how these cartoons looked like girls and that liking them made me a lesbian, I would sneer at them. Foolish gaijins. Their untrained, unweebed eyes couldn't tell the difference between drawings of guys that looked exactly like girls and drawings of girls that were actually girls. Uncultured. However, I was but a naive child that needed to grow up and come to terms with a sobering fact. Being attracted to men based on how much they looked like women was not the straightest mindset. And you know what? That's okay. This is America, land of the free for the time being. You can just be gay, you know? If that ever changes, however, haha, I was just joking, praise heterosexual Jesus. I'm actually very happy that my internet searches are hidden behind a VPN because, actually, speaking of VPNs, did you know that every time you go online, someone's watching you? That's why I use ExpressVPN. A VPN creates an encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet, which means your online activity doesn't just wander off into the wrong hands. A shame. I like knowing what you're up to. Without a VPN, your internet provider can see and log everything you do, every site, every search, every moment of poor judgment at 3 a.m. Public Wi-Fi is especially generous with your information. Airports, cafes, hotels, the perfect places for collecting your passwords. ExpressVPN wraps your data in encryption strong enough to make hackers lose interest and move on to someone who thought incognito mode was protection. ExpressVPN encrypts all your traffic and hides your IP address, protecting your browsing history so hackers, and me, have nothing to look at. It also lets you change your online location. That means more shows, fewer restrictions. Curse knowledge your country decided you didn't need to see, now available. Click the link in the description to get up to 4 extra months free at expressvpn.com/susu. Protect your privacy and browse like no one's watching, because ExpressVPN makes sure they aren't. Some things are better left unknown. The part that makes me look back and laugh was me genuinely getting pissed that my male classmates didn't look like anime pretty boys. Surely, if Glorious Nippon says it's true, men like this must exist somewhere. I decided to save myself for a beautiful, feminine prince who looked like a lady, but who was not a lady, so it's not gay to like him because I wasn't gay. I just admired everything about feminine beauty and wanted to be with someone who looked as close to a girl as possible. You're witnessing the female version of Traps Aren't Gay Cope. It was serious character development to come to the realization that believing anime tropes were real would mean dying alone with cobwebs in my panties. Before the Trap Nation attacked, I started watching Inuyasha as it aired on Adult Swim around 2002. Obviously, it would appeal to me as it was a show with long-haired pretty boys, and the main character was a long-haired pretty boy who was also really bratty and always getting put in his place by a cute girl. From there, I explored the works of the show's creator Rumiko Takahashi and discovered there was a lot of female nudity in her mangas. Hot springs, bath scenes, accidental public exposure, you name it, but it was portrayed in a way that felt almost natural and even comedic at times, not like on the same level as ecchi or hentai. That stuff came later. Ranma was particularly special to me because he was a boy who could turn into a pretty girl and always ended up with strategically ripped clothes. But since his default form was a dude, I could do the it's not gay mental gymnastics. Sure, he's able to become a woman down to every biological detail, but he's still technically a dude. 100% straight. Which reminds me of the decades-old debate of if being attracted to female Ranma is gay or not, as weebs of aeons past also wrestled with these philosophical questions. Does anyone remember the bookstore Borders? It's gone now, but as a broke kid, I would ride my bike there and sit on the floor in the manga aisle, reading whatever I could get my hands on until I had to go home. With my newfound knowledge that anime could show me a lot more than the average American cartoon or comic, I discovered the works of ecchi overlords O Great and Yuji Shiozaki. O Great is responsible for such masterpieces as Tenjo Tenge and Air Gear, two stories that start off with a fun and simple premise and then get really convoluted, but I can forgive him for this because his female characters were super hot, and his art style influenced generations of weebs on DeviantArt. Yuji Shiozaki was lesser known at the time and created what would become a monolith in the ecchi sphere with his work Ikitosen, which for some reason was renamed Battle Vixens in English and subjected to some of the worst translations ever. Both of these manga were blessed with tons of panty shots, strategically ripped clothing, and pretty much no female characters with less than an E cup. My mom recently dropped off some of my old manga. Let's take a look, shall we? This is another Yuji Shiozaki work. I don't know what the original Japanese name is. It can't be Battle Club. I don't. They always wanted to put battle in front of his mangas for some reason. But gee, I wonder why I gravitated towards that. Well, I'm only going to show you those three. I feel enough judging eyes on me already. And you know what? If you're judging me, it was a simpler, hornier time. You wouldn't get it. Also, in the early 2000s, gay bashing was a part of mainstream culture. It was so rampant that they started releasing these commercial PSAs telling people that using the phrase, "that's so gay," to make fun of something was not the nicest thing.
Do you like this top? So gay. Really?
You know, you really shouldn't say that.
Say what?
Well, say that something's gay when you mean it's bad. It's insulting. What if every time something was bad, everybody said, "Oh, that's so girl wearing a skirt as a top"?
Oh, you are.
Those are cute jeans, though. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
A certain F slur was basically used at the same frequency as one might say hello or good evening. So it's not really shocking a lot of young people chose to stay closeted. But then, something happened that changed the course of history. MySpace got popular, and the emo scene wave hit, and suddenly everyone was bisexual. Do you all remember that? My fellow millennials, do you remember when rampant bisexuality hit the towers? Remember all the emo boys and girls making out? I remember. Something about the emo scene era made the youth more aware of different sexual identities, which for me could not have come at a better time because I was fighting for my life to either fit the lesbian or straight mold and failing at both. Come to think of it, emo and scene did have a lot of parallels with Japanese culture, like fashions like gyaru and some clear influence from visual kei. And visual kei was pretty gender non-conforming, with men dressing in feminine attire and presenting as girls while still identifying as male. A great example would be fashion icon Mana-sama of the band Malice Miser. So once again, thanks Japan. And thanks ExpressVPN for sponsoring my video. If you're not using a VPN, you're basically live streaming your freaky searches to your nosy ISP. Use my link in the description to protect your privacy. And perv in peace. Video's over. Go away. I'm gonna make out with my waifus now.